Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the wild psychology behind one of history's most polarizing figures. We're going to deconstruct the extreme mindset, the intense education, and, well, the tragic self-destruction of history's ultimate conqueror, Alexander the Great. It is an epic story of unmatched ambition, but as you'll see, that ambition came with a huge, heavy price. Let's get right into it. Okay, to really wrap our heads around this, we have to start with this incredibly young age right here. Just 32, specifically 32 years and 8 months. That is the exact age Alexander was when he died. And by that time, he had already conquered half of the known world. It's honestly mind-blowing. Over 2,000 years ago, there was barely a nation or city that didn't know his name. He carved out this vast empire, cementing his legacy forever, literally before most people today even hit their career stride. Which naturally leads us to a pretty massive question. How does a 32-year-old become a literal god among men, only to completely lose himself in the end? That is the core theme of our explainer today. We're going to explore the dual nature of extreme ambition and look at how the exact same traits that let someone conquer the globe can also absolutely guarantee their personal ruin.
Part 1. The Ultimate Conqueror's Mindset.
So, to really grasp the sheer size of Alexander's shadow, just take a look at this quote from Julius Caesar. Now, Caesar is one of the most powerful men in human history, right? But he actually looked at Alexander's legacy and felt entirely inadequate. He literally lamented that while Alexander was already king of so many peoples at his age, he himself hadn't achieved any brilliant success yet. Alexander's drive for glory was just so massive, his need to dominate so much bigger than anyone else's, that it captivated every single generation that followed. He made even a legendary conqueror like Caesar feel like he was falling way behind. So what actually fueled this unbelievable drive? Well, it started with a supernatural level of self-belief. Alexander didn't just think he was a great leader, he actually genuinely believed he was descended from the gods. And because of that, the risk of death just didn't matter to him. He displayed this irrational, totally fearless bravery. He was incredibly stress-tolerant and absolutely thrived in those chaotic moments of uncertainty, where normal people would just freeze. Plus, he always led from the front. By throwing himself into the absolute worst danger, his sheer fearlessness actually dispelled his men's fears and boosted their morale when things looked grim. Honestly, to his soldiers, he wasn't just a king. They seriously debated if he was a literal god on Earth. And what really grounds this whole mythos is this staggering number, 20,000. He traveled more than 20,000 miles during his lifetime. But he wasn't doing this comfortably riding in the back of a luxury chariot, you know? He traveled those miles mostly on foot in brutally hard conditions. He survived entirely on sheer willpower, relentless persistence, and that supernatural self-confidence we just talked about. He completely embraced hardship, setting the tone for his army every single day.
Part 2. Tutored by a master.
His father, King Philip, knew that an uneducated son was just going to fail. He wouldn't be able to build a respected empire. So Philip did something pretty incredible. He hired the brilliant philosopher Aristotle to be Alexander's private tutor. And get this, in exchange, Philip actually rebuilt Aristotle's home city of Stagira, which he had previously captured. Now look at how this foundation sets up his crazy trajectory. At just 13, his education with Aristotle begins at a remote village called Mysa. 6 years later, at 19, his father is assassinated, and boom, Alexander is the ruler of Macedonia. By 22, he's already conquered half of the known world. And then, at 32, he dies after a life of extreme, non-stop conquest. This breakneck pace from a remote village student to total global domination shows just how profoundly those early years shaped him. Now, if you look at Aristotle's specific curriculum here, it brilliantly balanced critical thinking and leadership with worldly understanding. On the one side, he's learning philosophy, rhetoric, and politics. On the other, it's natural sciences, the arts, and the incredibly crucial skill of observation. Aristotle's main goal here was to teach Alexander how to think critically and analyze every single situation based on real observation and experience. Because extreme success, it requires a sharp, well-rounded mind, not just a big, powerful military. And that is exactly what Aristotle designed this curriculum to build. This teacher-student relationship lasted nearly 20 years, and Aristotle wasn't just downloading dry facts into Alexander's brain. He was shaping the emotional and analytical capacity of a future empire builder. He taught him how to control his extreme emotions. He sparked this really deep passion for reading and lifelong learning.
In fact, it's crazy, but Alexander actually carried a copy of the Iliad with him on all his military campaigns. And it wasn't just any copy, it was personally annotated by Aristotle himself.
Part 3. Embracing pain and hardship. Check out this powerful quote directly from Alexander. All the things you want in life are on the other side of discomfort, pain, and difficulty. He genuinely believed that true excellence was defined by your capacity to tolerate and in some twisted way actually enjoy pain. He essentially told his army that pain wasn't something you avoid, it was something you embrace and conquer. And you can see this calculating, intense resilience even when he was just a young boy. While his father was away fighting, a young Alexander received ambassadors from Persia. Now, he didn't act like a scared kid. He earned their respect and used the meeting to ask these brilliant, manipulative questions to gather intel about their kingdom. Intel he would literally use to attack them 3 years later. This stoic resilience stayed with him his entire life. No matter the obstacle, he did whatever it took to win. I mean, the guy was wounded 9 separate times in battle, and yet he never once threw a pity party for himself. For Alexander, the fact that something was difficult simply made it more important to achieve.
But, a flame that burns this incredibly bright often ends up consuming itself. Part 4. The Price of Glory. We are left with this stark, deeply tragic contrast between the man he was and the man he eventually became. On one side, we have the disciplined student, this focused, critical thinker mentored by Aristotle, a guy who admired genuine excellence and brilliant achievement, waking up early and eating a spare diet. But then, on the exact opposite side, we see the intoxicated king. Let's be real. Alexander was in no way a perfect man. He became selfish, cruel, narcissistic, and honestly, fundamentally unlovable. He fell victim to addiction and the completely corrupting nature of absolute, unchecked power.
It's a sobering reality check, isn't it? That even history's most exceptional men with limitless ambition, immense courage, and top-tier mental caliber, can still fall hard to addictions. Now, maybe he didn't see it as a threat at first, but Alexander started consuming massive quantities of undiluted wine, hitting states of pretty pathological intoxication. And while historians love to debate whether he was a clinical alcoholic, the fact is, alcohol undeniably ruined his life. It all culminated in one horrific, unforgettable moment. In a blind, drunken rage, Alexander murdered his own close friend Cletus, the very same man who had actually saved his life in battle years earlier.
Which really brings us to this profoundly poignant takeaway. Fortune makes those thirsty for glory less capable of coping with it. Alexander was without a doubt more thirsty for glory than he was capable of handling the reality of actually having it. When your extreme ambition vastly outpaces your emotional maturity, the results are just catastrophic. It's the ultimate tragic reminder of the old saying, be careful what you wish for. As we start to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with some timeless wisdom from his master tutor, Aristotle. He said, "You will never do anything in this world without courage. It is the greatest quality of the mind next to honor." And courage really was the defining trait of Alexander's meteoric rise. He had the self-belief to withstand absolute agony, to dispel the deepest fears of his men, and to literally conquer the known world. So I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on. Is extreme ambition the ultimate path to immortality? Or is it a guaranteed recipe for personal ruin? Alexander carved his name into the bedrock of history forever, for sure. But he sacrificed his humanity and ultimately his own life to do it. Thank you so much for joining me on this Explainers today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time as we decode another amazing piece of history.